are the um, learning objectives. So discuss the concept of minimum corporate income tax, compute gross income for merchandising, manufacturing concerns, and gross income for services concerns, enumerate the items that comprise the gross receipts and costs of services of selected industries, compute MCIT for service, merchandising, and manufacturing concerns, describe the mechanics in handling the excess of MCIT, discuss the improperly accumulated earnings tax, and discuss the nature of gross income tax. So, ito na to is the continuation of the previous chapter, yung corporation, yung tax ng mga corporation. Yung MCIT or the minimum corporate income tax sa domestic corporation, ito yung 2% of the gross income as of the end of the taxable year na nai-impose sa beginning ng fourth taxable year, whether calendar or fiscal year yung pinili ng corporation. So, the MCIT shall be imposed whenever such corporation has zero or negative taxable income, or the amount of minimum corporate income tax is greater than the normal income tax due from such corporation. Ito yung normal income tax. Ito yung na-discuss natin sa previous chapter. So, it is the income tax rates prescribed under Section 27A and 28A1. Yun yung depende kung anong year yung kinocompute mo. Pero ang latest ngayon is yung 30%. So, yan yung normal income tax. Pero sabi nga dito sa diniscuss ko sa taas, nai-impose yung minimum corporate income tax, MCAT, kapag mas mataas siya sa normal income tax. Ibig sabihin, kailangan mong i-compute yung normal income tax due gamit yung rate na to or MCAT na 2% ng gross income. And kung ano yung mas mataas dun sa dalawa, yun yung pipiliin mo. Yung overview niya. So, let's discuss the definition of terms. Dahil sinabi ko kanina na ang MCIT is 2% of the gross income, paano ba kasi yung gross income? Ano ba yung gross income? So, for trading or merchandising and manufacturing, ganito i-compute yung gross income. Gross sales, i-deduct mo muna yung any sales return, sales discounts, and sales allowances para makuha mo yung net sales. After that, you need to deduct the cost of goods sold and the cost of goods manufactured and sold. Ito na yung tinatawag na gross income. Saka mo multiply sa 2% para makompute mo yung minimum corporate income tax. Ano bang definition ng gross sales na nasa taas? So, it includes only sales contributory to income taxable under Section 27 of the Code. Pag sinabi naman cost of goods sold, ito yung mga purchase price or yung kung magkano mo binili yung binibenta mo or kung magkano yung nagastos mo para i-produce yung binibenta mo, and all expenses directly incurred to bring them to their present location in use. So, yun. Kunwari, gross sales mo is kung magkano mo binenta yung damit. Ang cost of goods sold mo is kung magkano mo binili yung damit. Pero kung kunwari ikaw pa yung nagtahi ng damit, syempre ang cost of goods sold mo is yung kung magkano mo produce yung or ginawa yung damit. For trading or merchandising concern, cost of goods sold means yun yung invoice cost of the goods sold plus any import duties, the freight in transporting the goods to the place where the goods are actually sold, including the insurance while the goods are in transit. So, yan yung mga inclusive sa pag-compute ng cost of goods sold. For the Merchandising, for the manufacturing naman, manufacturing concern, the cost of goods manufactured and sold includes all costs of production of finished goods, kasama na yung raw materials, kasama yung direct and labor manufacturing overhead, freight cost, insurance premiums, and other costs incurred to bring the raw materials to the factory or warehouse. So lahat, pag manufacturing concern, include mo kung magkano mo binili yung mga raw materials, ano yung mga direct and labor manufacturing overhead, lahat yon included siya sa pag-compute ng cost of goods sold. Naman kung service, yung industry, yung ino-offer niya. So, paano mo i-compute yung gross income ng sale of service? So, ito siya, gross receipts less sales returns, sales discounts, sales allowances. Para makuha mo yung net receipts, less mo yung cost of services para makuha mo yung gross income, multiply by 2% to compute the minimum corporate income tax. Kapag services, ang gross receipts yun yung actually or constructively received during the taxable year. Pag nga rin nag-render ka ng service, yung mismong na binayad sa'yo, yun yung gross receipts mo. Or cash basis yan. However, pag accrual basis of accounting, the term gross receipts shall mean amounts earned as gross income. Ito yung, pag sinabing gross receipts, ito yung pwedeng nabigay mo na yung service pero hindi pa nababayaran. So, it includes yung mga receivable mo kapag accrual basis. Kapag ganon, gross receipts multiplied by 2% to get the MCIT. Cost of services means all direct costs and expenses necessarily incurred to provide the service required by the customers and clients, including yung pasweldo, salaries and employee benefits of personal consultant and specialists directly rendering the service, cost of facilities, syempre, na ginamit in providing the service such as depreciation or rental of equipment used and yung mga supplies. So, yan yung mga cost of services and gross receipts pag under service siya. Next is the substantial losses from a prolonged labor dispute. It means, mga ano pa lang to, definition of terms. Losses from a prolonged labor dispute, it means losses arising from a strike staged by the employees which has caused the temporary shutdown of business operations. So, kunwari nag-strike yung mga empleyado, nag-temporary shutdown yung business or yung operations. So, substantial losses yun. Pag force majeure, it means a cause due to an irresistible force as by act of God. Ito yung mga hindi mo maiiwasan, like lightning, earthquake, storm, flood, and the like. So this term shall also include armed conflicts like war or insurgency. Kunwari, nagkaroon ng earthquake, so naapektuhan yung warehouse, nawala lahat ng mga materials. So it was caused by force majeure. Pag legitimate business reverses naman, it include substantial losses sustained due to fire, robbery, theft or embezzlement or other economic reason as determined by the Secretary of Finance. So, yan yung mga yun. Discussion din dito kung paano mo naman malalaman yung gross receipts kasi na-discuss ko na yung gross receipts or gross income pag trading ka, pag merchandising, and pag manufacturing ka. Pero, meron din kasing mga different discussions kung ano naman yung gross receipts and cost of services. Depende kung ano ang industry mo. So, ito yung summary niya. Pag banks and non-banks, ito yung gross receipts niya. Interest, commissions, discounts from lending activities. Pag cost of services naman, ito Ngayon. So, please read na lang yung section na to. Brokers of securities, insurance, real estate, immigration and commercial brokers, general engineering and or building, common carriers or transportation contractors, and next, so we will be discussing kung ano ang mas mataas sa MCIT or sa normal income tax, yun yung pipiliin mo. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan mong i-compute yung dalawa. Na-discuss na natin yung normal tax last chapter. Overview ulit, ganito siya i-compute. Gross sales, less sales return, sales discount, sales allowances. Para ma-compute mo yung net sales, then you will deduct the cost of goods sold or the cost of goods manufactured and sold para ma-compute mo yung gross profit from sales and add other gross income to get the gross income less the allowable deductions, which was also discussed in the previous chapter, to get the net income, and you need to multiply it to the income tax rate, which is 30%, to get the normal tax. Pero na-discuss din last time na yung itong tax rate is depende kung anong year yung kinocompute mo. Pero ang latest income tax rate is 30%. For the MCIT na na-discuss kanina, so this includes gross sales, less sales return, sales discounts, and sales allowances to get the net sales, less cost of goods sold and manufactured and sold to compute the gross income, multiply it by 2% to get the MCIT. So, anong mas madaling i-compute? Pag normal tax, kung mapapansin mo yung difference niya, pag normal tax, i-add mo pa yung other gross income mo and i-deduct mo pa yung mga allowable deductions mo. Pero sa MCIT, gross income lang ang basis ng MCIT, which is 2%. Etong other gross income will be discussed in different chapter. Yan. Sample, illustration. Venus Corporation, a resident foreign corporation, is on its 5th year of operation in 2019. Nag-discuss kasi natin kanina sa first part, nag-i-start ang MCIT sa beginning ng 4th taxable year ng isang corporation. So, pwede na siyang i-subject sa MCIT. Ibig sabihin, kapag first year mo pa lang, normal income tax pa yon. Pero pagdating mo sa 4th year, 4th taxable year, beginning of the 4th taxable year, pwede ka nang mag-compute din ng MCIT mo. So, ito siya. So, Venus Corporation, a resident foreign corporation, is on its 5th year of operations in 2019. It has the following financial data. So, gross sales is 30 million. Sales returns and allowances, 900,000. And so, yan yung mga different amounts given. Note, syempre, kailangan mo i-compute yung dalawa, normal income tax and MCIT, para malaman mo kung ano yung mas mataas. Gross sales is 30 million, less yung sales returns and allowances and sales discounts, 2.4. Net sales is 27,600,000. Less mo yung cost of goods sold. So, gross profit from sales is 17,100,000. Other gross income, less deductions, multiply by 30%. So, the normal income tax is 705,000. How about the MCIT? Gross sales is 30 million, less sales returns 900, and sales discount 1.5 million. So net sales is 27,600 and the cost of goods manufactured and sold is 10.5. So the gross income is 17,100,000 which will be multiplied by 2% to get the MCIT of 342,000. So ano ang babayaran niya? Sabi natin kanina whichever is higher. So the income tax 705,000 pesos. So yun. Ngayon, meron pa siyang babayaran from other gross income. Yung interest on notes receivable na 50,000 and the dividends from Ceramics Corporation na 200,000. So, meron siyang total gross income na 250. Na-discuss natin previously na dapat nagbabayad siya ng final tax on passive income depende sa nature ng gross income. Dahil interest income from international bank siya, it is subject to 7.5%. You may check the table provided in the previous chapter. So, 3 million times 57.5 is 225,000 and the capital gain on sale of beauty corporation is 90,000 times 5% which is 45. So total is 229,500. So yan. Yan yung example ng pag-compute ng normal income tax and MCIT. Another one, service naman. Normal tax, gross receipts, less sales return, sales discount, sales allowances. Para makompute mo yung net receipts, add other gross income. So, less deductions. Parehas lang naman siya sa kabila. Ang difference lang, ito wala siyang cost of sales. So, yan siya. Subject to 30% yung net income ng normal income tax. Samantalang ang MCIT, this includes cost of services kasi nga ang kinocompute mo dito ay gross income which will be multiplied by 2% to get the MCIT. This is the illustration. Assume that Festival Corporation, a domestic corporation engaged in consulting services, is on its 4th year of operations in 2019. The following data relate to its operations for the taxable year 2019. So, ito siya. Ito yung mga details na given. Kailangan ulit natin i-compute yung NIT at MCIT para malaman kung ano yung higher. So, gross receipts is 18 million, less yung mga sales returns and allowances and discount. To compute the net receipts of 16,740,000, you add the other gross income and the normal income tax. The normal tax is 195,000. For MCIT, gross receipts is 18 million, less sales returns and allowances and sales discounts. So net receipts is 16,740,000, less cost of service million. So the gross income is 11,740,000 multiplied by 2%. So the MCIT is 234,800, higher amount. Income tax due is 234,000. Gross income niya, which is the interest on those receivable, 100,000. How about sa final tax naman? Ang subject sa final tax is capital gain from sale of land and building, 6 million times 6%, 60,000 pesos. So, yan yung computation. Ano ba yung period na subject ng isang corporation sa MCIT? So, for purposes of the MCIT, the taxable year in which business operations commence shall be the year in which the domestic corporation registered with the BIR. yung mga corporation which were registered with BIR in 1994 or earlier, in earlier years, it shall be covered by the MCIT beginning January 1, 1998 pa lang. So, kung ang mga corporation is 1990, 1994 pababa, magsa-start lang yung pag-compute ng MCIT nila sa January 1, 1998. So, firms which were registered with BIR in any month in 1998 shall be covered by MCIT in 2002. Kasi sabi nga, fourth year. Magbibigin pa siya sa fourth year taxable year na. Beginning on the fourth taxable year. So, lahat ng corporation ng 1998, magsa-start na silang makover ng MCIT. Pero, magsa-start pa lang yung pagbilang mo ng years doon. First year, second year, third year, and fourth year. So, 2002 pa siya makakapag-compute ng mga MCIT niya after the lapse of the 3 calendar years from 1998. So the reckoning point for firms using the fiscal year shall also be 1998. For example, a firm which registered with the BIR on July 1, 1998 shall be subject to MCIT on his gross income earned for the entire fiscal year ending in the year 2008. Period subject to MCIT. Paano naman kung may excess sa binayaran mong MCIT? So, any amount paid as excess MCIT shall be recorded in the corporation's books as an asset under account title Deferred Charges MCIT. So, this account shall be carried forward, magagamit mo pa siya, and may be credited against the normal income tax due. So, kapag meron kang excess MCIT, pwede mo siyang i-record sa libro mo as Deferred Charges MCIT. Yun yung account title niya. Magagamit mo siyang pangbawas sa mga babayaran mong tax. Sa mga, kunwari may normal income tax ka sa susunod, may sobra ka namang MCIT. So, pwede mo yung ibawas. Pero hanggang 3 taxable years lang. Pag hindi mo pa siya nagamit within 3 years, hindi na siya pwedeng gamitin. Nag-e-expire siya. So, it may be credited against the NIT due for a period not exceeding 3 taxable years, immediately succeeding the taxable year in which the same has been paid. So, any amount of the excess MCIT which has not or cannot be so credited against the NIT due for the 3-year reglementary period shall lose its credibility. So, matatanggal na siya sa deferred charges MCIT mo at i-debit na siya sa retained earnings para mawala siya sa libro mo kasi hindi mo na nga siya magagamit. Hindi na siya allowable deduction sa mga sa income tax. So, yun. Administration. Assume that La Pagayo Corporation commenced business operations in calendar year 2006. So, it is subject to MCIT beginning taxable year 2012. So, assume further that its income taxes during the years from 2012 to year 2019 are as follows. So, ito yung mga details niya. In this case, La Pagayo Corporation shall not be allowed to carry forward and credit the 2012 excess MCIT against the income tax liability for 2013 since the 2013 MCIT is greater than the NIT for the said year. So, magagamit mo lang ang excess MCIT mo kung ang mas mataas na babayaran mo sa susunod na taon ay normal income tax. So, dito kasi, mas mataas ang MCIT mo. So, hindi mo magagamit itong excess na to na pangbayad. Pero, for the year 2014, mas mataas na dito yung normal income tax mo, 200,000 kaysa sa 190,000. Lapagayo Corporation shall be allowed. Pwede mo nang i-apply yung excess MCIT ng 2012 and 2013 amounting to 95. So, 75 plus 20, pwede mo na siyang magamit dito kasi NIT na ang mas mataas. Pag-compute. So, remember, hindi mo magagamit yung excess MCIT kung mataas sa next year kaysa sa NIT. So, the 300 excess MCIT naman in 2015 may only be credited against NIT liabilities for the succeeding 3 years from 2016 to 2018. However, dahil nga mas mababa yung NIT for these succeeding years, mas mababa siya kaysa sa MCIT, hindi mo na magagamit yung MCIT, excess MCIT dito. Kasi mag-expire na siya. So, it loses its credibility by the year 2019. Hence, it must be removed and deducted from deferred charges MCIT account and charged to retained earnings account. So, yan yun. Accounting entries to record MCIT taxable year. So, pwede mo i-check to. Kapag mas mataas yung MCIT, debit provision of income tax 25,000, credit income tax payable 25,000. Base pa din to sa illustration. Deferred charges na 75,000. Ito yung excess MCIT. At may income tax payable ng 75,000. Pero, bayad ka ng 100,000 kasi yun yung payable mo sa MCIT. So, debit income tax payable, credit cash in bank na 100,000. Yan yun. For taxable year 2014 naman, meron kang for provision for income tax na 200,000, 2012 and 2013 kasi yung excess mo. So, 200,000 income tax payable at magbabayad ka ng 90,000 ng income tax payable. Ito yung i-apply mo. Na 75,000 sa 2012 at 20,000 sa 2013. Siyempre, kulang pa din. Magbayad ka pa rin ng cash. Debit income tax, 105,000 and credit cash in bank, 105,000. Taxable 2019 dahil hindi mo nagamit yung excess MCIT ng mga nakaraang taon kasi laging mataas yung MCIT mo kaysa sa NIT mo. Tatanggalin mo na siya sa red. 100,000 credit deferred charges MCIT. Quarterly normal income tax naman versus MCIT. Paano kapag ang quarterly? So, ito yung mga given. 100,000. I-minimize natin. So, ito siya. May MCIT siya. May taxes withheld. May excess MCIT siya prior years. And excess with tax prior year, 10,000. Paano mo siya i-compute? For the first quarter, ang income is 100,000 kasi ito siya, mas mataas siya sa MCIT. So, 100,000 less mo yung excess sa prior year na 10,000 kasi ibig sabihin may sobrahan na bayaran no prior year so 10,000 less yung taxes withheld mo sa first quarter na 20,000 ito and yung excess MCIT sa prior year na 30,000 kasi pwede mo kasi maggamit tong mga to para bayaran tong 100 na to. So, ang babayaran mo na lang ay 40,000 kasi 100,000 minus 40,000. Yun yung due mo. For the second bayaran mo naman dito ay 330,000. Paano naging first? So, dito sa first quarter, walang problema. Ang higher is NIT, amounting to 100,000. Pero dito, consider mo din yung previous quarter. 100 sa first quarter, 80 sa MCIT, plus yung pang second quarter na 120, ang MCIT nung time na yun ay 250. So, anong mas mataas na? 330,000 na. So, ang pipiliin na natin dito ay MCIT pagdating sa second quarter. So, balik tayo dito. So, second quarter mo is 330. Minus mo pa din yung previous quarter. So, 10,000. Kasi rounding balance to. So, prior year is 10,000, 20,000. So, meron ka ng 30,000 for the second quarter. Ang payment mo last quarter is 40,000. Saan galing? Nandito. Yan. So, ang total corporate income tax due mo for the second quarter is 230,000 pesos. For the third quarter, balik tayo dito sa schedule na to, idadagdag na natin yung pang third quarter. At ang mas mataas ay NIT amounting to 400. Ito, 470. 230. Ito yun. Para ma-compute, so 70,000 na siya. For the final quarter, ito na yung total niya. Mas mataas yung NIT. So, 670,000. Naman yung total mo ng babayaran for the year, less any other payments made for the year. Ito na siya. So, nakapagbayad na siya ng total of 505,000 for the year. Ay 100 quarter. Next is ano-ano naman yung mga corporations not subject to MCIT kahit na matagal na sila. So, the minimum corporate income tax shall apply only to domestic corporations subject to the normal corporate income tax. So, accordingly, the minimum corporate income tax shall not be imposed upon any of the following: upon domestic operating as proprietary education institutions subject to tax at 10% on their taxable income. So, yan yung tatlo. Okay. So, yan yun. So, yan yung mga hindi isinasama 2% na MCIT. Nagkakaroon ba ng suspension of the MCIT? So, in order that cessation of businesses as a result of being placed under involuntarily receivership may be a basis for the recognition of the suspension of the MCIT. Such a situation should be properly defined and included in the regulations. So, pending such inclusion, the same cannot yet be invoked. So, hindi naman basta-basta masususpend. Or how about the resident foreign corporation? An income tax of 2% of the gross income from sources within the Philippines is imposed upon any resident foreign corporation beginning on the fourth taxable year, parehas lang, gaya ng sinabi sa domestic corporation. So, yan yun. Pero syempre, ang difference is pag resident foreign corporation ka, within the Philippines lang, yung isa-subject mo sa 2% of gross income. So, resident foreign corporations not subject to MCIT, this shall only apply to resident foreign corporations which are subject to So accordingly, the MCIT should not apply to the foreign corporations. So ito yung list ng mga hindi sila subject sa MCIT na mga resident foreign corporation. So the next topic is the improperly accumulated earnings tax. So the BIR issued on March 9, 2001, Revenue Regulations 2-2001 prescribing the rules and regulations in the implementation of the provisions on improperly accumulated earning tax. So ito yung nasa-subject siya sa 10%. So this is imposed for each taxable year, a tax equal to 10% of the improperly accumulated instead of dividing them among or distributing them to the shareholders. Ito kasi improperly accumulated earnings tax is kapag masyado nang malaki yung naging earnings ng isang corporation, kailangan na siyang isubject sa 10%. Kasi kung i-distribute naman siya sa mga shareholders niya, ang magbabayad naman ng tax nun is yung mismong shareholder. So dahil hindi mo siya dinidistribute as a corporation, kailangan mo magbayad ng tax doon. So ito siya, the rationale is that if the earnings and profits were distributed, the shareholders would then be liable to income tax thereon. Whereas, if the distribution were not made to them, they would incur no tax in respect to the undistributed earnings and profits of the corporation. So, dahil hindi na-distribute yung earnings and profits, hindi nakapagbayad ngayon ng tax si shareholder kasi hindi naman nila natanggap. So, a tax is being imposed in the nature of a penalty to the corporation. So, parang ipipenalize yung corporation kasi improperly nag-accumulate ka ng earnings mo but hindi mo siya dinistribute. Kaya may binabayaran na 10% na tinatawag na IAET, improperly accumulated. These are the coverage. The 10% IAET imposed on properly accumulated taxable income earned starting January 1, 1998 by domestic corporation as defined under the tax code. So ito yung mga corporation na hindi subject sa improperly accumulated earnings tax. So yung mga companies, publicly held corporations, taxable partnerships, GPPs, non-taxable ventures. Yeah, so yun yung mga yan. So, closely held corporations, ito yung mga corporations at least 50% in value of the outstanding capital stock or at least 50% of the total combined voting power of all classes of stock entitled to vote is owned directly or indirectly by for not more than 20 individuals. So, domestic corporations not falling under the aforesaid definitions are therefore tinatawag na publicly held corporations. At kapag publicly held corporations ka, hindi ka subject sa improperly accumulated earnings tax. So once the profit has been subject to IAET, the same shall no longer be subject to IAET in later years. Kahit hindi siya ma-declare as dividend dahil na subject na siya. So hindi siya yearly isa subject. So, notwithstanding the imposition of the IAET, profits which had been subjected to IAET when finally declared as dividends shall nevertheless be subject to tax on dividends imposed under the tax code of 1997 except in those instances where the recipient is not subject thereto. Pero, may paraan para hindi siya masubject sa IAET, sa IAET. Kailangan daw ma-determine na kaya mo hindi dinidistribute yung earnings mo ay dahil sa reasonable needs of the business. Ano siya dinidetermine? So an accumulation of earnings or profits, including undistributed earnings or profits of prior years, is unreasonable if it is not necessary for the purpose of the business, considering all the circumstances of the case. So to determine the reasonable needs of the business in order to justify an accumulation of earnings, meron tinatawag na immediacy test under American jurisprudence na naa-adapt sa ating jurisdiction. So accordingly, the term reasonable needs of the business are hereby construed to mean the immediate needs. So ito yung mga examples ng mga reasonable needs of business kaya nag-accumulate ng earnings ang isang corporation. So allowance for the increase in the accumulation of earnings up to 100% of the paid-up capital of the corporation as of balance sheet date inclusive of accumulations taken from other years, earnings reserved for definite corporation expansion, so reserved for buildings, plants, or equipment acquisition, or reserved for compliance with any loan covenant. So, yan yung mga example. Kapag meron silang proof na ito yung mga reasons kung bakit hindi nila dinedeclare yung earnings and profits nila as dividends, kaya or ito, may mga proof sila kung bakit ina-accumulate nila at andito yon sa list na yon, hindi siya masasubject sa 10% na improperly accumulated tax. Ano ba siya i-compute kapag na-subject ka? Taxable income for the year, lang yung income subject to the final tax, NOLCO or the net operating loss carryover, income exempt from tax, income excluded from gross income, less income tax paid. So ito yung breakdown niya. Yung improperly accumulated taxable income, imumultiply mo yung rate na 10% to compute the improperly accumulated earnings tax. Illustration. So, assume that in taxable year 2011, Peace Corporation, a domestic trading corporation, is subject to improperly accumulated earning tax after having been assessed as retaining earnings beyond the reasonable needs of the business. Related data. Please check this. Siyempre, i-compute muna natin yung normal income tax niya at yung MCIT niya. Mas mataas ay yung normal tax which is 345,000. So, yun yung income tax niya. At ito yung breakdown ng gross income niya. For final tax on passive income, ito yung computation. For the computation of improperly accumulated earnings, kasi nabanggit kanina na subject siya sa improperly accumulated earning tax kasi nagre-retain siya ng profit beyond the reasonable needs. Paano mo siya i-compute? 1.150. Add yung mga income na exempt from tax. Hindi ito na subject sa passive income. Paid, yung binayaran mong income tax. Binayaran mong final tax on passive income. Yung magiging improperly accumulated taxable income mo. 10% accumulated earnings tax is 77,125. Para hindi ka magbayad ng improperly accumulated earnings tax na 10%, kailangan mong patunayan yung reason mo kung bakit mo siya nire-retain. Yung mga binanggit kanina na dapat within the reasonable needs of the business. Or dapat i-declare mo siya at bayaran mo siya as dividend sa mga shareholders mo. Pero pag dividend, the dividends must be declared and paid or issued not later than 1 year following the close of the taxable year. Otherwise, yung IAET mo, if any, should be paid within 15 days thereafter. So, ito siya. For the determination of purpose to avoid income. The fact that a corporation is a mere holding company or investment company, it shall be prima facie evidence of a purpose to avoid the tax upon its shareholders or members. Likewise, the fact that the earnings or profits of a corporation are permitted to accumulate beyond the reasonable needs of the business shall be determinative of the purpose to avoid tax. Kasi pag ina-accumulate daw nila yung profits and earnings nila na wala namang reason na reasonable needs ng business, walang reasonable needs ng business, or hindi nila dinedeclare din as dividends, sabi dito, indication daw yun na ina-avoid nila yung tax. Kaya nasa-subject sila sa IAET. Kapag kasi holding or investment company ka, it refers to a corporation having property. So, wala kang reason para mag-retain ng mga profits na malalaki. So, yun yung sa IAET. For the gross income tax per corporation, the Secretary of Finance may allow corporations to be taxed at 15% of gross income effective January 1, 2000. Conditions have been satisfied. So, ito yung mga subject naman sa GIT of 15%. Ito yung mga na-recommend na dapat magbayad ng 15% ng gross income. So, number 1, a tax effort ratio of 20% of GNP, a ratio of 40% of income tax collection and total tax revenue, effort of 4% of GNP, and 0.9 ratio of the consolidated public sector financial position to GNP. So the option to be taxed based on gross income shall be available only to firms whose ratio of cost of sales to gross sales or receipts from all sources does not exceed 55%. So the election of the gross income tax option by the corporation shall be irrevocable for 3 consecutive taxable years during which the corporation is qualified under the scheme. So dapat daw matatax ka lang sa dito kapag yung gross income mo, yung ratio ng gross income mo at cost of sales mo ay hindi nag-exceed sa 55%. Yung cost of sales niya to gross sales niya or receipts, dapat hindi 55% yung ratio. So, resident foreign corporation engaged in trade or business within the Philippines have the option to be taxed at 15% of gross income under the same conditions required of domestic corporations. Pero syempre, in the Philippines lang yung tax ng GIT. So, this is the computation. Sales discounts and sales less cost of goods sold, gross income divided by 15% to get the gross income tax due. So, ito, pag GIT, mas mababa pa rin siya compared sa normal income tax of 30%. Kasi ito ay 15% lang. Pero as mentioned kanina, dapat yung ratio ng cost of sales mo sa gross receipts or sales mo ay hindi tataas sa 55% para makapasok ka sa pwedeng mag-avail nitong GIT. Kasi natin kanina itong cost of goods sold. So, illustration. So, Wright Corporation, a domestic merchandising corporation, opts to be taxed under the gross income taxation for the taxable year 2019. So, pinili niya yung GIT. So, compute the gross income and gross income tax if its financial record shows So, ang cost of goods sold to gross sales niya is 45% kasi 6.750 divided by 15,000. Yun, cost of goods sold divided by yung gross sales is 15 million. So, ang ratio is 45%. At sabi natin kanina, para makapag-choose ka sa gross income tax or GIT for corporations, dapat hindi tataas sa 55% yung ratio mo. Ang niya is dito na. So, is 1,080,000 using the 15% kasi gross income tax or GIT siya. Next, 2019, Merit Corporation, a domestic company providing for artisan services, opts to for the gross income taxation. So, it has 4.5 divided by 10 million. So, ang ratio niya is 45%. Pasok ulit siya kasi hindi siya nag-exceed sa 55%. So, gross income of 10 million, less mo yung mga allowances. Gross income is 9.1 multiplied by 15%. So, ang gross income tax niya is 1.365. So, ganito lang kasimple pag GIT ang kinocompute. So, yan yung discussion ng MCIT, IAET, and GIT.